The Shepnaz Podcast begins now.
Welcome to the Shepnaz Podcast. I'm Joe, and I'm your host today. And we have a special guest with us today. His name is Stephen Burkey, and he is new on staff here at Shepherd, although he's not new to Shepherd. So we're going to get to know him a little bit about his story and what he's going to be doing here and how God's brought him to this point. So welcome in, Stephen.
Thank you. My pleasure.
You're pretty excited about being on the podcast, I could tell.
Of course, very.
Well, I only say that because a lot of times when people are on for the first time, you know, it's like, oh, what am I supposed to say? What am I getting into? And,
I'm definitely a little bit nervous, but I'm ready to go.
Well, I will try to be as gentle as possible through this process.
I appreciate it.
All right. So tell us a little bit about just kind of how you came to Shepherd originally and how long you've been here and kind of the different kind of things that you're involved in and around the church.
Yeah. We probably started coming here about 4 years ago, and it was actually our oldest, Caden, got plugged in with the youth. He played volleyball at the Gahanna High School, and kids in the volleyball team went here and asked him to come here, and he got plugged in. And, one of our highest priorities was get our kids to know and love Jesus, be involved with the church, give their life to Jesus. And when we hear he's plugged in here, we're like, okay, let's go over there. And we also have a long history here. Mandy, my wife, Mandy, her grandparents are Wayne and Patricia Reno. Okay. That, if you've been here for a while, then you probably know them. And her parents been here. My father-in-law is a Nazarene chaplain at the Indianapolis Hospital and the VA hospital. And so we also did have ties here, but, Caden was the main draw for us to come here, and, we've just loved it ever since we've been here. My wife and I co-host a small group with the Judys. We've got prayer groups, disc golf groups, basketball groups, anything that we can do to, just bring glory to Jesus, bring community together so we can be more useful for the kingdom, things like that. That's kind of our focus and priority. Our small group is very full of children. We've got like 14 kids in our small group, so it is a very fun, full, chaotic time. Nice. And so that's mainly what's going on with us at the church and how we got here.
And Mandy's involved in like the women's prayer gathering and stuff like that.
Correct.
That happens on Saturdays. Check shepnaz.org/calendar. You'll see some of the events that are coming up on that. But that's not all for you. You now have a new kind of official position here. Tell us a little bit about that, if you would.
Yes, I am the new maintenance director for Shepherd Christian School and Shepherd Church. Before this, I was the lead maintenance technician for Champion Companies. It's an apartment complex off Polaris Parkway, kind of a nice apartment complex. And, it's just been doing maintenance for a little bit, and this position opened up, and, it's just a dream come true. My whole life I've wanted to work with and for the church in any way that I can. And this is just a dream come true, and I'm very happy to be here and happy to help in any way I can.
Wonderful. Well, we were glad to see you come on board. Shout out to Andy Wilson, who served many, many years here and did a great job for us. But he got an opportunity he just couldn't say no to, and we don't blame him. But in turn, we were so blessed to know that even one of our own was looking for an opportunity to be able to serve in the church, and it's a great fit. And I understand exactly what you're saying when it's talking about, using those skills that you have and being able to way to figure out how that plugs in to expand the kingdom, to move the ministry forward, and how God can work through you in that. So now, luckily, you started in June, so you'll be able to ramp up to the number of toilets that you have to unclog during the school season.
Hey, that's great. I'm an expert with the toilets.
All right,
I'm ready.
I'm pretty sure you're going to get your practice. But what are some of the other duties that you will now have as kind of the maintenance director for the church and for the school?
Well, at the moment, we're selling the property that we have, one of the houses, and I'm in the process of turning that over, painting the house, getting it ready. We're just trying to get the best sale we can out of that house. But at the same time, there's plenty of things that need maintained constantly around the property, the grounds, plants are growing nonstop, during this season. A door fell off the other day. I had to fight a big hornet's nest yesterday. So there's always something around the corner. But the main focus right now is I'm at one of our properties that we're about to sell.
All right. Well, I know having you here is allowing Pastor Tim to sleep at night. So we do appreciate that. And I know he does as well. So let's talk a little bit, if you would. You had mentioned Caden coming to youth group and your wife's involved in the women's ministry. But before all that, tell us a little bit about your personal walk of faith and kind of how you came to Christ. Because we always find it encouraging when we hear those personal stories. So many people that listen, they're like, I can relate to that. That was kind of like me. So tell us a little bit about your personal walk of faith.
Yeah. Well, I was born and raised in a Christian home. Grew up in church, grew up in youth group, all that kind of stuff. And my father was a great man. He would, teach me the small details and stories of the Bible, not just maybe an overarching theme, but what that actually means. And, it was a household I was only allowed to listen to Christian music. I was not allowed to listen to secular music. It was just against the rules. And I appreciated that. Like, that's, especially now in hindsight, I know that was the correct thing. And, I think when I was about 18 years old, something hit me where I was like, this is the most real thing that's ever happened. There's almost scientific objective proofs that, the Bible is legitimate and Jesus did all the stuff that he said he did. And I just started exploring this path of apologetics at the time. And, just when you're in college, especially I went to OSU and Columbus State, a lot of people are secular and, I just wanted to be able to give an answer to, apologetics, give an answer to why I have my faith, why I have my hope in Jesus and things like that.
I think it's 1 Peter 3:15. I think if you always be prepared to give an answer for the hope. Yeah.
Precisely. And so just traveling down that path, it even almost stigmatized me. Like everyone just was like, oh yeah, that's Stephen. He's Christian. He's overly zealous. And I just wore that. Yes, I am a Christian. That's exactly
and
right.
I am overly zealous.
I love Jesus dearly. Yes, that's precisely the case. And so that's kind of the environment I grew up in the church, and then grew up doing lots of research, and then people almost labeling me as the Christian guy. And, I was like, yep, that's right. And then probably a little bit after college, I got married to Mandy. We've been married it'll be 14 years in August. And and she's a pastor's daughter. And so, we've just always been involved with the church, involved with small groups and things like that. And at Shepherd, this is the most we've been plugged into a church, and we absolutely love it. It's a complete blessing to be here. And we're just wanting to serve any way that we can and wanting to give glory to Jesus. That's just the goal.
Amen. I know a lot of times we'll hear testimonies of people. They'll be like, I was on Skid Row. I was dealing with addiction. I was, in the worst parts of society, and God called me out. And sometimes, those are great testimonies to hear, and it's wonderful to hear the power of how God has moved in people's lives. And then sometimes we have a testimony like, hey, I've been in church and Lord has blessed me and I want to follow him and I'm excited about following him. And as you were talking, one of the things that came to my mind was something that my dad had shared with me. I'm also a pastor's kid, and for people that are listening, they've heard that too many times probably, but I will never forget, I was only 8 years old at the time, and it was probably the most influential statement that was ever made to me, and it was just made in passing, and it wasn't until years later that I was able to share with my dad how fundamentally changing that statement was. Literally, we had a bathroom that was kind of split up into two rooms. It was like there was a section that had a long double bowl vanity, and then there was another section with a door that had the tub and the toilet. And so so it was one of those bathrooms where a family could be, you could be brushing your teeth beside somebody else in your family. Let's say it that way.
I understand.
So literally, we're getting ready for church on a Sunday morning, and as you had alluded to, I was having memories of my childhood where, like, we listened to Christian music all the time, and so even on Sunday mornings when we're on our way to church, we didn't have enough. We had to have the radio on, playing a preacher on the radio while we were getting ready for church. And I can remember it was Charles Stanley that was on the radio on Sunday morning, and he was preaching, and it got towards the end of his program, and my dad was getting ready to brush his teeth, and I was at the other sink, and he looked over at me, and he says, someday you'll have to make that decision for yourself. And that just went right through me. And it was something where I realized I wasn't going to just inherit Christianity. I wasn't just going to inherit faith. Like, at some point, even though I'm in this bubble, I'm in this environment, that I have to make that decision for myself. So if you could just speak to that for a little bit. You had mentioned when you were 18 that this became a harsh reality to you. And if you want the opportunity, how would you share that with someone else? When you're talking about you became the apologist, what were the things that you just couldn't deny if you were to have an opportunity right now to say, hey, I want to be able to share this about Jesus to you, and this was the thing. If nothing else, I want you to understand this. So what things would you want to share with somebody?
Well, if I was 18 and less mature, because nowadays I would talk about the Lord's love and how much he loves you, and he wants a relationship with you, and it's just the most beautiful relationship you can have. But if I was 18, I probably would have talked about the legitimacy of the Bible, how they created the Bible, how it's not just some book, that it's a compilation of stories, poems, songs written over thousands of years that has had intense scrutiny. And there's not, commonly people think it's been translated a whole bunch of times and things like that, and that's not the case. It's Hebrew to English and then Greek to English. That's just how it is. And just the canon and how they determined what should be in the Bible. And just if you would write a very complex paper about how they wrote the Bible and how it all come together, you would be shocked of how just immensely beautiful it was that it all cohered together nicely, and how the stories all cohere together. And it appears to be divine if you would write a master's thesis on how they created the Bible and put it all together.
Amen. Well, I certainly, I can't tell you what joy it brings me to know that I can sit down with our maintenance supervisor and have a theological discussion.
Yes. Glory to Jesus.
Amen. No matter where God may call us in our professional life, he's also working in our spiritual life, and the two don't have to be completely independent. And we are really glad to have you on board. Any last words you want to share as we wrap up today's introduction for you?
No, that's it. I greatly appreciate it. If anyone needs anything, please let me know.
All right. And if you're looking for a plunger, look for this guy. He's ready to go.
Yes.
At a moment's notice. We hope this has been a challenge to you and an encouragement to you to get to know Stephen a little bit better. And also you can find out things that are going on at the church by going to shepnaz.org. Also follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. For Stephen, I'm Joe. Have a great day. This podcast is a production of the Shepherd Church of the Nazarene, Gahanna, Ohio. Email to podcast@shepnaz.org and let us know what you think.